excuse our mayor, and we also need to excuse Councilman Tafoya. They are both out of, not able to make it this evening. So since I am the senior council member, I will be leading the meeting tonight. Present tonight is Council Member Joe Paul, Council Member Brian Saxton, and Council Member Jan Burrell, and I'm Council Member Carlene Yeoman. We will first start off with a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance led by Jan Burrell.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We have Ryan and Jaden here from Troop 375 that are going to lead us tonight in our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you to Ryan and Jaden.
Thank you. We always appreciate when we have scouts coming and performing that duty for us. I think they're earning their Duty to Country Award.
This one is Building a Better World.
Building a Better World. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a couple of consent items on the agenda tonight. First of all, we have a consent item to approve our September 18th City Council meeting. We also have an approval of the alcohol and beverage license for 7-Eleven store, number 34361B, located at 5605 South, 3500 West. We also have a consent item for the surplus of property. Correct? Okay, was there any discussion or anything concerning those consent items from any of the council?
No, I thought the pieces from the groups that were concerned about it were clear in their information.
Okay, do I have a motion for the consent items?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I vote? Okay, aye. I didn't know for sure. That was one question I was going to ask you before we started. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a couple of action items this evening. Our first action item is actually a public hearing. It is consideration adjusting fees for the curbside recycling program within the city of Roy. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
I make a motion that we go into public hearing on Resolution 1826.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're now into public hearing. Do we turn this over to?
Yep,
Okay,
Matt.
go ahead, Matt.
Good evening, Council. I present to you tonight Resolution 18-26, a resolution to adjust the fees of curbside recycling for the city of Roy, providing an additional one-time opt-out period. We've had a lot of discussion on this. We first started out with some council discussion within here. We've had a work session, and we've kind of narrowed it down to agreeing to the $1.23 rate increase effective January 1st, 2019. That rate increase will only affect the recycling customers. We also wanted to provide an additional opt-out period. We typically do the opt-out in June of every year. We're going to do a one-time opt-out period starting November 1st, and that would extend to November 30th. So the customers that don't want to experience that rate increase of $1.23 per month, they're able to come in the Management Services Department and opt out of those services. With that, they would be obviously just doing the solid waste portion, and that fee is a little different than if they have the recycling. So the other thing that this resolution encompasses is it authorizes the mayor to be able to sign the contract for waste management to approve these on the contractual side of the agreement. So our recommendation would be to approve Resolution 18-26.
Okay, I do have a question, Matt.
Sure.
Is the garbage fees, any of the garbage fees going to increase? Because I know that was a question I received, or is it just the recycling fee that's going up the $1.23?
So I think the reason why you're getting that question is, the answer would be, is just the recycling is going to increase. If you opt out of the recycling, there is an additional
Okay.
fee for, an added fee to the recycling, for the garbage,
Garbage.
for people that do not recycle.
And that's because if we recycle, you get a discount on your solid waste fee.
Correct. And
So
you're
if
not
you-
paying the tipping fee at the landfill for that use.
And do you know about how much that increase would
It
be?
would be, so if they opt out, it would be $1.14 more a month.
Okay.
So if they opt in, it will be $1.23 more than
Yeah,
what
so
they
I-
have been paying.
Yeah,
So it's kinda-
exactly. If they keep into recycling, it would be $1.23 more. But I can go over the rates. So right now, the rate with recycling per month is $10.94. Without recycling, it's $12.08. The rate for recycling.
Okay, sorry, will you repeat that one more time?
Uh-huh. So with recycling, the solid waste rate is $10.94 a
Okay.
month. If you do not recycle, it is $12.08 a month.
Okay,
So the recycling rate right now is $4.68 per month, and it will increase to $5.91 per month. And then the solid waste side would stay exactly the same of what I just said.
So
One of,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm still
first.
confused about, where's the $1.23? Because it was $4.68 and now it will be $5.91.
Yeah,
That's $1.23.
So that's $1.23.
correct. Yep,
But if they opt out, they won't pay the $1.23, but their solid waste will go up $1.14.
to the 12, yeah, to the 12.08.
yeah.
Okay,
So we're
Okay.
not gonna do an increase here tonight in council for that increase. It was already in place.
okay.
Then-
Oh,
So it would be $12.17.
It would be $12.08 for without recycling solid
recycling.
waste.
And with recycling, it would be $12.17.
It would be the solid waste part would be $10.94.
Plus the $1.23 increase.
Plus the $4.68, and then the $1.20
Oh, I see.
fee would be 23, that would be $5.91.
If someone opts out of recycling, they're gonna save about, almost $60 a year. Isn't that right?
Correct. The problem that we would have is if too many people opt out, the tipping fees would obviously go up, and that we would have to readdress the solid waste rates at a future time. Because if those tipping fees keep on increasing, the city can't absorb that cost.
That's the point of order I wanted to make. We are under contract with Waste Management for a rate, and they are increasing our rate. However, we're also under contract with Waste Management to maintain a 75% recycling. We're already below that, so we're out of contract with them.
Correct. And
They
they've
are
been-
working with us to lower that.
Correct.
And so I originally was going to say, well, we're under contract with Waste Management. You can't raise our rates. But they can also raise our rates because we're out of contract in the percentage of recycling. So we're helping each other out in this
Yes.
situation. It's one of those things that's happened. There's not much we can do to plan for it, and we're still offering the public an option to do it or not do it. If they continue to do it, there's a fee associated with it.
Yep.
We've also negotiated with them to be like around the 50 percentile on
to lower it.
recycling. Yeah, so
Okay.
Yeah,
they've
they're
been
working
really
with
good
us
to
quite a
work with.
bit.
Yeah.
one question I did have, another question that I'm getting is how much it would be for an extra can? Because if they decide to opt out of recycling, but they're used to having 2 cans, do you know how much it would be for an extra
I don't
can?
have that with me right here.
And is that something that they go
But
through Waste Management to get
That
that
would be
extra
something they
can?
would call us for.
Oh, call Royce
Yes.
City to get an
Uh-huh.
extra can. And you don't know how much that is?
And I don't, yeah, oh, right here, extra
I thought
can.
it was
perfect.
14.
It would be $14.12 every other
Yeah.
month.
It's about
Okay.
14 bucks.
Yep,
Every other month?
every other month.
Yeah, so
Okay.
your second can's cheaper than your first can.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. So just so that I've got a cost.
And I think that's a good point of order you just made is anytime they have questions or comments with waste management, broken cans, any issue, it goes through the city because they are the
Contracted.
provider, but we contract with them. We are actually the service entity for that.
Yes, that's correct. And we keep a regular communication. Every night when we get like 10 cans a day or so of people calling and saying it's broken, we send that immediately to them. They're a little bit more responsive to us than if a customer were to just call into them directly.
And this information was, put out in our new newsletter that just went out to all the residents. But I noticed some of the information that we just talked about tonight was not. So it might be good to add some of this information.
To the newsletter, correct?
Yeah,
We-
to the-
We originally had things swapped around. We were
Oh.
originally going to do the increase in November and an opt-out period later. We felt that was unfair to the residents to say, you're gonna have to pay this increase no matter what. So we were able to talk to Waste Management to flip-flop those dates.
Okay,
And so we were gonna repost it in the new newsletter. We're gonna send it out in the utility bills as well
okay, good.
to notify them of that.
Okay, of some of the costs and stuff that we discussed this evening. Okay,
I
that's
think
great.
the opt-out dates was wrong in the newsletter.
Yes,
was-
that's
Yes.
correct. It was for January and then the increase in November.
Yep,
Okay.
And that was done we made this discussion after. That's why we
That went
postponed
to
it from the
print?
last council meeting, yes.
Okay.
It went out to print and then we had the discussion.
okay.
Matt, I'm sorry, I don't know this, but can they opt in at any time?
Correct,
But
yep,
they can just opt out in
Yes.
this time January, but
Yes,
typically
correct.
June?
yep. Another opt-out period would be as if a new customer came into the city. We allow them to opt out when they first come up to sign in for utility services.
Even if they've been living in a home that previously had
Correct, yep. So
curbside
like with the
recycling?
annexations and things like that, we've had the discussion of saying when they come in, they can make that decision at that point in time.
Okay.
And then if they make the decision to keep it, they have to wait until June like everybody else.
But at any point, they could opt out, let's say in November, and then if they say, oh, this isn't working for me, they could opt in
Correct.
March?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So right here in the newsletter, it said, the council has elected to allow an additional opt-out period in order to give the residents the option to cancel their recycling service in the month of January. It's actually the month of
November.
November.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, is there any further questions from the council for Matt?
No
Okay,
further.
this is a public hearing, so if anybody from the public would like to address anything that we've been discussing about the recycling program, please state your name and address for our records.
Glenn Moore, 2088 West, 3825 South. Simple question, do they have to go to Public Works or to the city to opt out, or can they call?
I think they can call.
They can call.
Just call our main number, right? Our main, mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to make sure that was on the record.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Glenda, for that question. Yeah, if there's anything we've missed or anything we need to clarify, that would be good to address. Is there any other comments from the public? Case hearing none, we'll go ahead and close our public hearing.
I make a motion that we close public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Do I have a recommendation for a motion? For this resolution?
Seeing no other alternative, Madam Chairperson, I make a motion that we consider Resolution 18-26, adjusting fees for curbside recycling program within the city of Roy and providing for an additional one-time opt-out period through the month of November 2018.
Yeah.
Good catch. That's all right.
Sorry, we can't even consider it, so.
Yeah. Madam Chairperson, I make a motion that we accept Resolution 18-26, adjusting fees for curbside recycling program within the city of Roy and providing for an additional one-time opt-out period.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Saxton,
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Paul.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 2 on the agenda is consideration for an ordinance number 18-21, amending the Roy City Code Title 6, Chapter 2, Section 1, concerning winter parking. Who is making this,
Make a motion,
addressing
we
this?
go into public hearing?
No,
No,
this
it's
one isn't a
not.
public hearing.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Brody, are you taking
am,
this?
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, this one's pretty straightforward. A couple council members and the mayor came to both Andy and myself a little while ago, said basically our winter parking ordinance is pretty restrictive because it just blocks out months of the year, especially concerning mild winters. Asked us to look at ways to craft an ordinance that allowed people to park on the street during the mild winter. So, we basically just came up with some language. We looked at a lot of local cities and areas, kind of how they were doing it. And speaking with Ross Public Works, they're basically concerned that they can plow the roads. So we drafted an ordinance, I think, that covers from the city what we need to have covered, and then allows the citizens to park on the street when there's not snow. So that is what we came up with, is as simple and straightforward as I could make it anyway.
Yeah, I actually read it. I like the new wording of it. I think it is a little bit less restrictive, like you said, especially in the mild winters. Is this something that we're going to get in our next newsletter to make sure that this gets out?
You can do that.
Okay, because I mean, for many, many years, we have had this ordinance November 15th to March 15th. And so we need to make sure that the residents know that, okay, you can park on the street unless it's snowing. You need to make sure that you are
Or
considerate.
there is snow on the street.
Yeah, snow on the street, so that you're considerate to move those vehicles off the street for snow removal. So we need to make sure that that gets in our newsletter.
And if I may, just for the record and for, I think when you talk with citizens, it's important to note that the statute, again, I made it simple, but lawyers mess everything up. But it says not only park, but leave on the street. So the excuse of, well, it wasn't snowing when I parked it.
Oh, right.
The ordinance covers that. Basically, if it's snowing or you've got to move your car. And that's essentially to allow the plows to work. So I think it's helpful maybe when you talk to citizens to let them know that, well, I went to bed and it wasn't snowing. The ordinance still covers that. They would have to move their cars still,
Get up in the middle of the night and go move their car.
or not park there if it's supposed to snow that night.
Yeah, so if it's
Watch
forecast
the
it's
weather.
snowing, probably not park in front of your house.
Yeah.
And I think those are things that I think we need to put in the newsletter too, just to be, like it says, to be considerate that we need to get out and get the roads plowed properly. And so we need to make sure that those vehicles are moved. I mean, the last thing you want is your car actually covered in
Out
snow.
around,
Yeah, as I've had that
damaged.
happen in a bad winter, trying to dig my vehicle out of the.
Well, and we're trying to be less restrictive to the citizens, but there's also some onus on them to make sure that they are following the ordinance.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 1821, amending Roy City Code Title 6, Chapter 2, Section 1, concerning winter parking.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's a roll
It's a
call.
roll call vote?
Sorry.
Sorry, it wasn't a resolution, so that kind of threw me.
Councilmember Burrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton.
Aye.
Councilmember Paul.
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, that is the end of our action items for this evening. Right now, we will move into public comment. So if there is anybody in the audience that would like to come up and address the council with any concerns or questions that you have, please remember to come up and please state your name and address for our records.
I seem to be the one.
That's okay,
You're
Glenda,
good.
go ahead.
Glenda Moore, 2088 West, 3825 South. The alcohol, the consent item for alcohol brought something to my mind, and so I'm going to ask. If a restaurant in Roy wanted to have a liquor license, do our codes allow for that?
Yes.
Yes, they do have to go through the proper channels and make sure that it's all approved.
Okay, but they could do that.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing that says Roy City people can't have alcohol at their restaurant.
I can speak a little bit.
Okay, go ahead, Brody.
So, our ordinance does allow it. Chief Marino and Deputy Chief Aaron Perry and I are working to kind of revamp that ordinance. We'll be getting something to the council here in the
Okay.
next little bit. Speaking frankly, if they can comply with all the requirements of the state, they're fine here in Roy.
Cool, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the
Thank
question, Glenda. Is there any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, we'll go out of public comment. The next item on the agenda is actually city manager's report.
Okay, thanks.
Jason?
Thanks, Carlene. Okay, general plan processes we talked about in last council meeting. The RFP was in motion. It is complete, and it was awarded to Landmark Design in Salt Lake City. So, good thing this is a process and a plan that's really been needing to be updated. So that is in full swing. So we're excited. More info to come on that, but it's been awarded and the ball is in motion.
Working with that, because I've worked on the general plan in the past, is it basically where they're going to be taking like the first part of it and going through it, and then we will be able to discuss it with them, or?
Yeah, so this
The
will
council's
be.
gonna have really
Yes, council will
involvement.
have input, just kind of like the transportation plan we're gonna
Okay.
talk about a little bit later. So they'll take our existing general plan, look at it, revise it to what we wanted Roy to look like in the future.
Okay,
So, yes, we'll have a lot of involvement.
okay, good.
And they'll take into consideration the Focus Roy study
Yep,
along
yep.
with
The
that.
Focus Roy is part of the general plan. Open house for public safety is October 10th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., so that's next week. Matt and his department and all the department heads and all of their departments have done a great job on the audit. We are wrapping up this week and talking with the auditor. So far, so good. So Roy City's in a good position. So thanks to Matt and his group. November 12th, that was the rededication of George Wallen Park. We do have a time. That is at 11 a.m. That was the only thing we were missing was the time.
Have the Wallens been notified of that?
Yes,
Okay.
they're actually the ones setting it all up. So North Park Elementary School is involved in
Thank
this,
you.
Oh,
Jen.
good.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, okay, council members, every year you're required to do an annual open public meeting act training. So Morgan will get you some information on that, times and dates, when to do it. But we all have to do it too.
Okay, is that something we're going to do as a council, or do we have to individually go and,
I'll give you the information. If we can all make the same training, I don't see why we wouldn't, but if we can't, then there's multiple throughout the year that we can send you to.
okay.
4800 South Railway, that project, the UDOT. So we did have that meeting last week. They said August 1st is going to be the completion. We talked about
next-
Roy Days.
this year?
Next year.
Next year, okay.
We
I
talked
was
about
like,
Roy
oh, yeah,
Days,
next
and
year.
they said for sure it will be done. We talked about the northbound turn going east on 2675. All parties involved assured that will not be an issue, not be a problem.
Okay.
So
Is
the
there a
way
way that
they're
we can
going
see
to.
that plan? Do they have it drawn
Yeah, I'll
up,
get it.
or?
I should be able to get it out.
I just like, I think all of us would, I mean,
Wouldn't
you've
be a bad
kind
idea
of
to
told
put a
us,
picture of it in the newsletter.
you
Yeah.
kind of told us how they were kind of thinking about doing it, but I
Yeah.
think it would be good so that
I'll
we have
get
an
with-
idea in case we get questions and concerns, you know, how that is going to be reconstructed.
Yep, great
Especially
idea.
since I travel 4,800, I would like to know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great idea. Yeah, I'll get that to you.
okay.
Janitorial services, we outsource that to a private company. Normally, we have 4 full-time janitors. 3 of them have quit or retired, and we've really had a hard time getting janitors to apply. So we outside of the box thinking by building maintenance, outsourced it out, and we have a contract with a company that's going to come in. We're going to keep 1 full-time janitor, and then they're going to come in and clean everything, and we'll actually save about $50,000 a year by doing that.
Yeah, 'cause
So
not
we're
paying
excited
overtime.
for that. Kind of one of those, maybe look at a different approach. actually, I credit that to building maintenance and Ross and his group for looking at alternative ways. So good job
you.
to them.
Yeah, anytime you can save the city money, that's great.
Yep, yep. The Mowita building is officially ours. We do have the keys in possession, and we are going to work on a fence around it and kind of
For
start
safety.
that process. Okay, last council meeting, we talked about a four-way stop sign on 5700 South. Well, that was the same week we met with the Transportation Committee and we drove the city to look at our transportation plan. I have talked with Councilmember Paul about this. They have a better idea. Instead of just putting a four-way stop sign, they would like to do, and I'll get you guys a picture of this, a little roundabout in those areas that they say is very minimal on cost. It's a little decorative for the community. And our whole idea is to slow traffic going east and west. And if you put a four-way stop sign, what they feel like is going to be a problem is it's going to really tick people off that there's a stop sign in between 35 and Emma Russell. So they're going to speed to the stop sign, stop, and then gun it and speed from there to 35, really not fixing the problem that we want to fix.
It's interesting you say that because after council meeting, I had people reach out to me and that was their exact concerns, is they're gonna be hearing people accelerate and pound it
Yep.
off the stop sign.
Yep. So you'll still have stops going north and south. They'll still have to
Right.
stop. But the east and west, you want them to kind of flow through a little roundabout that you don't have to do a lot of redesign and curb and gutter. It's just really simple, and they say it's really great.
You were actually considering a couple on that road.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I'll get with you on that.
I was like, that's interesting because that's something that we can actually look at and have that option for other intersections
That's kinda what they
throughout
were
the
talking
city,
about.
especially,
good to
yeah,
study that.
especially since we know kind of like what the costs involved and things like that would be.
Yep, so they figured on what we're trying to do would only be about $30,000 per intersection. So that's not bad. We do have Class C road money that will pay for that, so it's not gonna come out of general fund.
Okay.
And I
So-
went and driven up towards the top of Antelope, right before 89. There's one that meets that. They've also incorporated big speed bumps going into it. I don't know that we have to get that aggressive. I've looked out on Google Earth and found a couple other places throughout the valley that's got them, and they add decoration. You know, that is the main road into Emma Russell Park. Add some decoration. Hopefully it'll keep constant flow, but slow the flow.
Yeah, so I'll kind of bring you back some more information on
Okay.
that. Okay, October 16th, which is our next council meeting, we probably need to do a work session following that council meeting. So we were going to have this transportation plan presentation during council. That's actually the same night as the annexation approval. The UDOT guy that's doing the presentation would like to do a workshop with the council first before he presents it, because he feels like he can answer a lot of questions instead of having all the questions come during a council member. So in the past, when they do these transportation plans, they like to meet with the council first and then bring it back and discuss it.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if we can do a work session next council meeting after the annexation, and maybe on the annexation, Morgan, we can only have the annexation and maybe one or two minor things so it can kind of flow pretty smooth and quick.
And then go through the transportation plan and the
Yes.
work session.
Yes.
In a work session.
Yes, but I do want to do a work session on public safety
Safety.
as well. There's a few things that we've got to get ironed out.
Do we know
and
about how long the
That same
transport?
night?
Yeah, well, how
Same
long will
night.
the, oh, so you want to do both? Okay,
So it may be a long night, but two
better
big
have dinner.
things that we've got to address.
Just
We
kidding.
can do that with Diet Pepsi.
there you go.
That's all I got.
Okay, great. Okay, next item is any mayor or council comments? Does any of the council have any comments?
I know it'll be in our newsletter, but we do have trunk or treat coming up on October 31st. So that'll go from
Sorry,
5
Jan.
to 7. That's all good. That's all good. And that'll include a pumpkin walk, scarecrow decorating contest, food trucks, and candy, of course.
Oh,
So,
Good times.
Perfect, thank you. Excited for that.
I've got
I already
a
have my
couple
costume.
of things. First, Public Works, thank you. Just a thank you. I got besieged by people looking for sandbags, and Public Works really just saved them and me. So
What were the sandbags for?
The rain we're
The
having.
rain.
which hasn't come yet.
it hasn't come, but that, you know
Build
what?
your-
That
build
doesn't
your ark and
mean
get your
it's
72-hour
not.
kit.
Way to be prepared, Councilmember Saxton.
Have
You
those
know
sandbags
what?
ready.
Emergency preparedness is my middle name. Okay? Anyway, other things. Gary Hawley, who is with Roy High, is going to be honored at this week's home football game.
Okay.
And it's going to be on television. Gary Hawley has been a part of Roy High football for how long?
Probably 40 years. I'm not really sure.
A long time. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that, make sure that people were aware. Gary Hawley. Talked to the general manager of Mountain Shine Car Wash. And they are hoping when the rain goes away that we can do a grand opening, or at least attend a grand opening that they will put together.
And that's the one north of Burger Bar.
That is the one just
that's
north
now
of,
in
that's
operation.
now in operation.
Okay.
Okay? One last thing, I'm trying to get through these
No, you're
quick.
fine.
Received an email from Maverick, the convenience store chain outlet. Got this from their store director. Don't know why it came to me, but it did. No, I'm not special. I'm emergency preparedness. It said, "Hello, Brian. My name is Miles. I run the Maverick in Roy off of Midland and 4000. Was wondering if you know anything about the land behind my store. I've been hearing a lot from customers that townhomes and apartments were going in there. Is this true?" I responded, "Miles, it is a pleasure to hear from you. Your customers are partially correct. It is a mixed-use development consisting of 76 owner-occupied higher-end townhouses and 50,000 square feet of commercial buildings. The $20 to $25 million privately funded project will generate $250,000 to $270,000 annually for Roy City. I hope that answers your questions. If it does not, please feel free to contact me." Miles wrote me like the next day, sends me an email, says, "Thanks for the info. Wow, I didn't think the field was big enough for something like that. That's going to be cool." I just wanted to share that because somebody is noticing that we do have things going on in this city. And then he wanted a timeline of a project, and I told him it would be underway very shortly. Anyway, I just wanted to read it for the record.
Thank you. Appreciate that. No, appreciate that you've been in contact with him. That's great. Okay, any other,
Good job, Brian.
any other
You know
council,
what?
any other council member have any other items or things on the, to bring up?
There was one thing that got brought up. I think I sent you some information. I think the mayor, I don't know if he reached out to you, Jason, or reached out to Ross about a curbing issue on 20, you remember
Yeah,
what
it
I
was-
said? Do you know what become of that? What was, okay, it's still under
Yeah,
review?
this was not in the area by Roy Elementary. This was in another one. Yeah, right?
Yeah, where they had done curbing going one direction, but the people in the area thought the curbing and gutter would be going the other direction.
Yeah.
Is that something, you know, if it's still in the works, or,
I'll just reach out to Ross and
Okay.
have him check it out.
all right, that's the only thing.
Okay.
Oh, that's-
As some of you might have noticed, we have changed our times for our council meetings. They are now starting at 5:30 instead of 6. That was out in our newsletter that we tried to get the information out. I do see a lot of school kids here. Apologize if you've kind of come in late. We are finishing up our meeting, so we can go ahead and still sign your papers if you want. And if you might, if any of you will take this information back to your teachers to let them know so that they can let the rest of the students know that council meetings will be starting at 5:30 instead of 6, if they need to come in and get credit for that. Do appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and we'll have a motion.
I have one
Yes.
more question.
Mhm.
It just dawned on me, hit me. So I got a couple emails asking about, and I know this isn't in our wheelhouse per se, but I wonder if you know any information. What is, so they've made the train crossings in the 3 different areas in Roy silent crossings. But the other day, I guess, they were blowing horns all day long. Do we know what the reasoning is why they would be doing that? I figure if it's perceived, either they're testing or there's a perceived danger. Any ideas? Anybody else heard that? Okay.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't live by one, so I wouldn't hear it, but I did receive a couple of emails asking why all of a sudden train horns were blowing the other
Did
day.
they say it was just a one-time occurrence, or did they say
No, they
they've
said
heard
it
it
was
multiple
going on
times?
multiple times throughout the day.
Has it stopped
One
since
day.
then? Do we know?
I haven't heard any more
You haven't heard anything more
since,
from
so
them? Okay.
no news is good news, hopefully.
Okay, seeing that we,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
okay, I was just gonna say, do we have
I'll
a second?
second that.
Okay, thank you for attending council meeting this evening.